If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Good morning. Welcome to the May the 16th, 2023 edition of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we start off by saying thank you for listening to the program. Now, to be a part of the program, we will give you the numbers, and here it is, 516-453-9921. And you may, at your choice, press the number 1 button if you have a question for Mr. Fuller or a brief comment called VGQ. And you may ask that, but please be brief so that Mr. Fuller can understand the question and answer it as best as he can according to what he has written in his book that is called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. We will be making reference to that book all throughout today's programming. If you are a new caller, you can simply dial that number again, but be sure to give the call screener your name, and again, I press the number 1 button, and you will be heard at some point. We'll give you the new caller alert, and just ask your question. And please, ma'am, sir, please be brief. You can also Gmail me if you'd like at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Now, it probably will not be read today, but it will go into a rotation, and when it comes up, you will be notified as your Gmail will be read, and Mr. Fuller can answer your question. Again, ma'am, sir, please do not write me a long letter, okay, or a novel or whatever, a book. Don't do that, so that we can be to the point and that Mr. Fuller can answer your question fully, okay? The third way to be in contact with the show is through the chat room, and all you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. When you do that, there's a little bar there. You want to get programs. You hit that, and then you want to select shows, and the Produce Justice show comes up. You hit that, and then the box available for the chat room is there, and you click that, and you are in. So that is the ways that you can get in contact with the show. We repeat that every week because every week we have new callers that get on, and we make an effort to make sure that everybody can get on. If you call in, we try to make sure that you do that. Okay. All the books and materials that will be discussed by Mr. Fuller can be received at producejustice.com. Past shows are on there, and books and all types of information is there for your choosing to look at. So please take advantage of that. Okay, I think that's it, so let's get on with it. First of all, again, we'd like to say good morning, and we'll say good morning to Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay, still learning. Okay, for those that are new to the program, we have a segment which we call Thoughts and Expressions on the Mind of Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, what is on your mind this morning, the 16th of May, 2023?
On May the 11th, 2023, I received an email, and someone handed it to me in printout,
and it's from a Mr. Frost. And he says, I'm sorry, I can't get with some of the things Mr. Fuller says. I'm not saying white supremacy doesn't exist. However, walking around with a victim mentality is not the way. That's just not it. And a man, and he says, as a man thinketh, so shall it be. If you think and believe you are a victim, then you will become a victim. Such a mentality is what has caused a lot of the brothers and sisters to no longer have a physical life on the earth. Then he closes by saying, we got to do and be better. Peace and love. But the core of his message to me is that the victim mentality, implying, I imagine, that I should stop having that quote unquote victim mentality. Now, the reason I'm belaboring this point this morning is because I'm responding to Mr. Floss's letter, because I think a lot of people, and a lot of people have called in long before Mr. Floss did, or written in, and said, Mr. Fuller needs to stop talking about us being victims. And people have said that to me, one-on-one. Stop saying that we are victims. Get out of that victim mentality. That those two words are usually used. Victim. Well, I have it on the cover of my book, and my entire book is about taking the position that black people, the non-white people of this planet, are indeed victims of a system of government called the system of white supremacy. And that's a victimization government. So, this is my official response. I wrote it out so that I can be more concise. I hope I can be brief with it, even though it's kind of a stretch. But so many people have talked about this down through the years. Mr. Fuller, I agree with a lot of things that you say, but you keep saying that we are victims. Stop doing that, please. You're hurting people. You're wounding us. It's not good for the cause. So here's my response in the form of question. Because all problems, according to the code, can be solved through the process of questions and answers. That's a concept which I have, which I think is correct. Because all problems are solved throughout the world at any time that anybody has a problem. First thing you do is ask, is there a problem? It's questions and answers. So the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept requires answers to questions. Some basic questions are as follows when it comes to this, about the victim mentality, quote unquote, the victim mentality. That's what I'm dealing with. Is it true that white supremacy is racism? Is it true that white supremacy exists? Is it ever correct to think, speak, and act as if the truth is not the truth. Now, these are my responses. Is it ever correct to think, speak, and act as if the truth is not the truth? If so, when? Is it ever correct to say that white supremacy produces victims? That's a very important question. I'm going to ask it again. Is it ever correct to say that white supremacy produces victims? If so, who are the victims? Do these victims exist now? In response to the letter itself, specifically, those brothers and sisters were mentioned, or any brothers, quote, and sisters, quote, victims of white supremacy, whomever these brothers and sisters are. I'm going to ask that again. Are any brothers and sisters, any, victims of white supremacy? Then I asked a question that could have been asked right from the beginning. Should have really been asked. What exactly is a victim mentality? Let's get that straight. What's the definition of a victim mentality? And then my last question, has any person ever been a victim of anything? That's a key question. We can start with that one, even though that's the last question. Has anybody been a victim of a car accident ever in the history of the world? Has anybody ever been a victim of a robbery? I see it all the time. And people don't go into court and the judge says, there's no such thing as victims. I don't have any victims in my courtroom. Don't come in my court talking about victim. I mean, that's a victim mentality. You say you were a victim of a robbery, ain't no such thing as that. Don't come in here with that. That's not what this place is for. Go somewhere else with that. This is not the setting. We don't deal with victimization. Get out of here with that victim mentality. Come in here saying somebody snatched your pocketbook. That doesn't make you a victim. You come in here with that victim mentality, I don't know what to do with that. I'm a judge. But from what I understand, all over the world, it's every day, I mean, it's courtrooms and other rooms where people report that they are what? Victims. So it's either true or false that certain things that people do produces victims. Now, if that's false, I want to know it. Because then my whole book needs to be thrown in the trash can because we don't have no victims here. And anybody with a victim mentality is dealing with a phantom. And that's my editorial on my response.
Okay.
I hope that's being recorded forever, and on this program. I think it is, because I think I'm being recorded now. I intend to be. So I can just repeat that over and over again, because I wrote it out as soon as I got it. Because so many people for the last, as far back as I can remember, said, well, ain't nothing wrong with your book or nothing like that, except you got to take all that victim out of there. I ain't no victim of nothing. Ain't nobody made no victim out of me. And so I'm confused. Like Fuller always says, I'm still learning. So if I'm walking around with a whole bunch of people on the planet who say that, well, I got to find out whether or not there's any such thing as a victim of anything. And if somebody tells me, well, the people who are calling you are telling you the truth. You're not dealing with the truth yourself. There ain't no such thing as no victim of nothing. Victims of the Holocaust. Some people are crazy. There ain't no victims.
Okay.
That's my comment.
That's your comment. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. All right. 516-453-9921 is the number to get in contact with the show. And let's go to New York City, and let me see. I think we're getting ready for Tess. Let me see here. Tess, okay, Tess. You're there.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
1 moment. Thank you. Mr. Fuller, when investigating the term common sense, is the sense of non-white people common or shared with the sense of those categorized as white? Thank you.
That's a statement, I guess, so that comes under VGQ. I don't think it was a question in there anywhere. So it was a statement. I hope that
the question, Mr. Fuller.
Hello?
Yes. The question, Mr. Fuller, is the sense of non-white people common with the sense of those categorized as white?
Is the sense?
Yes, when looking at the term common sense.
Is common sense? Oh, okay, so I need the question again.
Is the term common sense common?
Is the term common sense
common?
Yes. Is the term common sense
common amongst non-white people and white people?
I guess. I don't know. What does the caller mean by common sense? I don't know. If the term applies to, I guess the term applies to everybody. Common sense. I mean, but I'd have to talk to everybody and ask what they think in order for me to answer that question. I would have to walk all over the world and ask, what do you think common sense is? Because that's how the question is being presented to me. Does it apply to white people and non-white people, common sense? Well, in my opinion, I guess so. If the people we are talking about, a whole lot of people on the planet, I would have to interview each person on the planet, white and non-white, in order to find out what they think about the term common sense. And that's my common sense response.
All right. Thank you very much, Tess. Let's go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and that would be Corey. Hang on, Corey. Let me see if I can get you in here. Let's see. Okay, Corey, you are on Mr. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Darnell. Hold tight. I meant to get Corey. So, Darnell, hang on. Corey, I hit the wrong button. My bad, Darnell. We'll get to you. Okay, Corey, you're on with Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. Fuller, my question kind of ties in with your opening statement about the email you received. And my question is to do with reparations. As victims of the system of white supremacy, should we ask for reparations from every white person that we're able to ask for?
If we're talking about reparations, yes. But not individually or individually, collectively, either or both. Because it depends on what you're asking for and how you ask for it, specifically. Now, since we're talking about reparations, I'll give you my view on reparations, period, when I'm talking about it. I say it's only one way to do reparations in a way that makes sense, common sense. When you look at the whole big picture of what all this reparations talk, compensation talk, name of my book is a compensatory code. Compensation, which means also reparations, or you're repairing something that's damaged, and black people are damaged people. So we're just asking for the damage to be repaired. Now, some repair jobs are very expensive, and certainly very expensive in the case of reparations for racism. So, how do you repair racism? Reparations. How do you get reparations for racism? That's the real question. You get it by replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. And this is what I have to say on reparations, period. Just produce justice. And what is justice? Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's number one. And number two, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And that, to me, is the whole program of reparations or compensation for racism. Replace white supremacy with justice, and I just explained what justice is. Two elements. Guaranteeing that no person from this day forward, from this moment forward, is mistreated. Guarantee that. No person is mistreated, white or non-white. You're going to have white people's cooperation to get reparations. So this is it. This is a practical way of doing it without a lot of squabbling. This guarantee from this moment on, we'll try to make this clear once and for all. Guarantee that no person is mistreated. Just push your chair back from the desk and say, okay, the high-powered thinking is over about reparations. From this day on, I'm going to do my best to guarantee that nobody is mistreated, white or non-white. And the other thing, in this office, starting with it, wherever you work, warehouse, whatever, work crew, guarantee that the person that needs help the most, whatever that help is, gets that help. If the help is in education, or economics rather, starting with the 9 areas of activity, economic help, the use of time and energy, which would include maybe some money, but economics, correct economics is the use of time and energy. Education, you need educational help? You don't know enough to get the things done that need doing? Okay. If you need that, we'll check it out, see if you need it, and if you need it, you'll get it. Guaranteed education. You need to know what you need to know. Entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Solve your problems, everybody on the planet. Because any problem is not solved for any individual, it's going to make a problem for somebody else. We see that happening every day. Somebody got a problem on a train, a subway. Their problem is going to become somebody's problem on that subway if that person is on that subway announcing that problem. That's going to become a lot of people's problem on the subway and might end in something happening to the person with the problem that is pretty ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Car being pulled over. That's a problem if there's a dispute about it. Oh, you're on parole, and you got a gun in the car. Saw that on television last night. Some of the recent news. And then it wasn't long, a few seconds after that, gun. Pop, 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 pop. The person with the gun in the car was using it. And the person who had pulled them over was ducking and firing back. Very brief, real quick. It happened in just a few seconds. All that chaos, all that death. One person down, wounded, another person dead. The person who was driving the car.
Mm-hmm.
The person who had the gun who was on parole or something like that.
All righty.
But, in answer to the question, that's reparations. See to it that things like that don't even happen. Why? Because the person doesn't have a problem that was pulled over that can't be solved peacefully. Got to guarantee that nobody's being mistreated and guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most help in every area of activity, 24/7. And then the world will have what you call peace. That should be the aim.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Corey. And let's break it here. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and we thank you for listening. Now, if you would like to have Mr. Fuller answer your question, call this number, 516-453-9921, and when you do that, press the number 1 button so that Mr. Fuller can answer your questions. Okay, you can do that. If you are a first-time caller, make sure that you tell the call screener your name so that you can get on, and you will get on. By the way, please, if you do have a question, please be brief with your question and do it slowly or speak it slowly so that Mr. Fuller can fully understand what you are trying to say. As a matter of fact, so that all of us who are listening can understand that, including yours truly. Okay, you can also join the chat room, which few people have. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on where it says programs, and then once that comes up, then it has the shows on it. And on those shows is the Produce Justice show. You click that, and once you do that, then the chat room becomes available to you, and you can get on there and follow all the chat rules, so please do that. Okay, let's see here. And you can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Now, probably it will not be read today, but because I have plenty that are just waiting to be read, but calls come first. And then when we have time left over, then I'll try to address the Gmails. Okay, I think that is it. Oh, yes, all the books and materials that will be discussed on today's program can be obtained by going to producejustice.com. That is producejustice.com. Bear in mind, those of you who are regular listeners, that there are new people that join the program all the time, and they don't know what you know. So we have to repeat that, a lot so that they know exactly where to go to get the materials. And sometimes we'll even have Mr. Fuller ask him why did he write the book and so forth, because they need to know that on their quest, just as you did, just as I did, just as we all did. So please, if you can, if you will, please, ma'am, please, sir, exercise some caution in that. Okay, moving right along, let's go back to New York, and now we can go to Darnell. Darnell, get ready as we get ready to cue you in here, if we can do this properly. So let's see here. Okay, Darnell, you're on.
Good day, Mr. Bobby. Good day, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fuller, according to the code, what is the purpose of questions and answers?
Solve problems.
Continue.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, Darnell. Okay. All right, solve problems. You got it. All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Darnell, one of our loyal listeners. Okay, now hopefully I can get this name right, because everybody knows that I am famous for mispronunciation of names. So I'm gonna try this one. Going down to Memphis, and Coley, or Colia, I probably butchered it, but here we go. Wait a minute. Let's see if I can get it over there. Okay, Coley or Colia, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Hi, it's Colia. It's fine, though. Good morning.
Okay.
Hey,
Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Today, I just wanted to come back to the area of labor. I know that as I am in business or pursuing business right now, a lot of the successful, quote-unquote, successful strategies that are being promoted to us is to basically be manipulative and use the human psychology in order to drive sales in a way that is very, I would say, deceiving at times, or it can be deceiving. And I would rather not use some of the things that the world tells you to do to be successful. So my question to Mr. Fuller is either it's somewhere in the book, I can always do that. It's hard to switch to the code immediately in just one day. And I would like for some of the people in the comment section to understand, even though I have the book, I still have to ask questions because I don't always understand. So my question is, what is the best way to do business that doesn't cause me to manipulate others? Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fuller.
We have to find out each day as you go along that is your intention. And there's no way to know it until you try it, because the whole system, under the system of white supremacy, is designed, it's built in that deception is the norm in the system of white supremacy. It's built into the system in all areas of activity. Economics, you deceive people. Like in the movie Casablanca, it's a scene there where a person is selling some items in a marketplace, and the price kept going down on account of the people that walked up to the counter to start with saying, anything that you buy at this stand, you're being cheated. That's what one character told another. that I know all over this marketplace. Just about everything that these people sell, you're being cheated at any price. And even when they tell you they're coming down on the price, you're being cheated. They're not really coming down. I mean, this mostly what they're selling is junk. So it should be throwing it away, not saying selling it. And so I would say, this is Neely Fuller's response, you just try to tell people, now, I'm doing the best I can. I got to make a profit. But in the system of white supremacy, you're not getting your value on nothing.
On nothing. Mm-hmm.
In economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, it's a deceptive system. And they glorify deception. Why? So they can fool people and get profits for doing so.
That's right.
And it's just no way around it as long as you have the system of white supremacy. But it's understood. You're being cheated as a wholesaler. And you're being cheated as a retailer. Everybody's being cheated to some degree. You're not getting, because the white supremacist system is a slave system. So there's some cheating going on in every transaction, whether you know it or not. It's just that way. So you do the best you can.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, Kalia, thank you so much, and don't be a stranger to the program. Let's do this one here. This is from the Gmail. Vegan RD says this. Mr. Fuller, hello. What is the best and next action if you find out that a child you are attempting to care for and is not a direct blood relative thinks you are inconsequential?
Thinks that you are what?
Inconsequential, of no significance.
Well, it comes down to people relations, if I understand the question. And you try to use what many people understand. I mean, in the Christian faith, you might say, and a lot of other faiths probably, do unto others. You would have them do unto you. To put yourself in the child's position. And then put yourself in your position. And then say, what is the correct thing for any people to do? And try to steer everything in that direction. What is the correct thing for anybody to do in this particular situation? If it's something you need to tell the child, and we're all children in the system of white supremacy if you're a person of color. So it's just person to person. Just don't think about the person as being a child, but at the same time you can think about the person as being a child, but think about yourself as being a child also. So it comes down to one thing. Move the idea of this is about children and raise the question within the framework of this is about people. So you just say, what's the best way to handle this situation as people, one person to another?
Okay. All righty. Let's do this one here. Okay, I'm not to mention the name here, but Anonymous says this, Mr. Fuller. I want to know what the category is of people mixed with white and non-white are. The reason I'm asking is that I know a person who is mixed with one black father and a white mother, and this mixed person has had 2 children with a white classified South American, mostly Cuban or similar.
And the question is, how do you interact with people like that?
Says, I want to know what the category is of people mixed with white and non-white are.
Non-white. There are 3 categories of people when you start talking about race and our color. White, non-white, and white supremacists. Take your pick. Not but 3. Now, officially, they say, quote, unquote, there's something like 21 categories. According to the code, there's only 3 categories, racially speaking, of people in existence on the planet in the year 2023, according to the compensatory code. And that is white, non-white, and white supremacists. And you have to be a white person to be a white supremacist. That's the political categories. That's the true categories, according to the compensatory counter-racist code. Strictly according to this code that Neely Fuller has written. Just 3. I'll go anywhere and say that over and over again. I don't recognize anything else other than that, because I say that's the truth.
Okay.
White, non-white, and white supremacists.
Okay.
Take your pick.
Take your pick.
Or leave it alone. Or you can talk to me, but if you start talking about Pacific Islander and Cuban and Christian and Muslim, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
When it comes to racial categories.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and last one for right now. By the way, thank you, Mr. Fuller. This comes from Ross. Says this: George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin. White people donated millions of dollars to him. Kyle Rittenhouse did a killing in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and received $2 million. Now, Daniel Penny killed Jordan Neely and has already received $1.6 million in donations. Mr. Fuller, please explain how this is evidence that the white supremacists have a code they follow, and how we as black people need a code that we all follow to protect ourselves and end racism, white supremacy. Thank you.
How we do it is the way that I'm doing it right now. I've shown the way that I know. And have other people who have read the book or listened to the program consider what is being said on this program and what is being said in the book. That's what the code is for. It's called a compensatory code, making up for what's missing. And I hope that I'm filling in gaps in order to do what? Solve the problems of racism and produce in the process a product called justice, which has never been done by anybody. That product called justice in recorded history. It's never existed. It's never existed among any people. So it's not bragging about anything, nothing to brag about. And it's not distorting anything. It's trying to clear up distortions. And you do that with truth plus justice plus correctness, and the equation is that should equal a thing called peace, which is, what is peace?
combine pieces, the combination of truth, reveal whatever the truth is, and produce a product called justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most help. And then correctness, truth plus justice plus correctness, that means interacting with all of the elements, the environment, in the best possible manner to produce the most constructive result with water, with gas, with air. Use it, the product, and that will equal this thing called quote unquote peace, theoretically.
Theoretically, yes, sir. Okay. All righty. Let's go to Georgia. Get ready, Derek. You are next up here. Let's see here. Derek in Georgia. By the way, those who are online who haven't given the call screen your name, please do so. Okay, Derek, wait a minute. Okay, Derek in Georgia. There we go. Derek in Georgia, good morning.
Morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's your question? Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Good morning, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. Thank you for all the work that you do. I got a quick BGQ and a question. The BGQ is, I think you guys should consider maybe taking donations or something, because I wouldn't mind. I already have a book, but I wouldn't mind buying, like, maybe donating so that y'all can, like, you know, give the book out to people who need it, because I wouldn't even know where to give the book to if I bought another one, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, also, this is my question. It's about truth. I like the questions that have been asked today because they've been about my topic, truth in general. Here's my question to Mr. Fuller. How many truths are there? I've noticed in the past few years that there's been a case being made for there being more than one, multiple, thousands, maybe even millions of truths. I'm of the opinion that there's one, but I've been kind of understanding the other side, and maybe there is more than one. So I just want to know what your opinion on that is. Like, how many truths are there?
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
I don't know. In answer to the question directly, that's a direct question, which I really like, direct questions. It's like, how many truths are there? I don't know. Because I'll do what the code says do. For what is truth? And according to the code, what I've written, that which is what? Is what it is. That's in the code book. Truth. That's in the word guide, I think. Unless I neglected to put it in there. And that's a big neglect. But the word guide is a part of the code book. And the code book is one of the worst written ever. I say that about my own book. It's one of the very best counter-racist books you'll ever find, I think, my honest opinion. But it's very worse written. One of the very best of the worst written counter-racist products. So I just throw that in there. But let me get back to truth. Truth is that which is. That which is what? That which is whatever it is. That's as far as I can go.
Okay.
I thought about that word truth long before I put it down into the book. First starting with a definition. And that's what I came up with, finding on my own. I don't think you'll find that as a definition anywhere in the dictionary. Truth is that which is. But that's the conclusion I came to. Is what? Is whatever it is. So how many truths are there? I don't know. Because whatever is.
Mr. Fuller, since you went there, since you went right there on the same line as the caller's question, that which is, would truth also be consistent with that which isn't?
Yes, because
okay.
that which
okay.
isn't is.
Yes.
Because
okay.
it isn't.
That's right. That's right. You're exactly correct.
Now,
exactly
well,
correct.
I don't know whether that is or not, but I'm saying as far as I can go.
Okay.
It's like Josh Billings once said in use of that. He says, but he wasn't talking about truth. He was saying about something that he considered to be is, which would be truth, I guess. And I'm trying to remember what he said. He said,
yes, sir.
Whatever you do, always be who you is. Because if you ain't who you is, you isn't.
Okay. The reason why I agree with that, even though that last part you may not exactly agree with that, is because of the creation of universal balance. Because if it's just one way, wouldn't it be perverted if it was one way or the other way instead of being balanced, which came with the creation of the universe? Balance?
Well, if I understand the question, everything should be in balance with everything else.
Okay.
And when one thing becomes, in science, when something that should be in balance is no longer in balance, then everything gets out of balance.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Just asking. You answered it. Exactly. Speaking about answering it, and thank you, Derek. Derek in Georgia. Very good question about truth. Mr. Fuller, in the remaining moments that we have in the first hour, I'm going to have you speak about your book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Go ahead, sir.
Yes. Now, somebody mentioned something about donations a while ago. Just buy the book and have other people buy the book, or you can send it to someone, or just direct someone to go to the website and to purchase it or something like that. And that's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the revised edition of the book, 2016 edition, and in addition to that book, it's two different volumes of the same book, and it's got two different prices on them too, which are pretty steep. And but they're the best that I can do, price-wise and material-wise. But those are the basics. The 2016 edition, and then you will see in another one called the Compensatory Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide. And both of them, the volumes, are basically, I say, the same book. In addition to, that's the Word Guide, is in addition to the basic book. In the basic book, to give you a frame of reference, the smallest title is the one that's most explicit, and that is Textbook Workbook for Thought, Speech, and/or Action for Victims of Racism. A textbook workbook now for thought, speech, and/or action. You just might read it and think about it without speaking about it at all, but hopefully you will speak about it and act on what is in the book, where the book requires action or asks for people to act on it. And it's all up to you. It's addressed to the individual person. You don't have to ask anybody else. The book is not designed for that. It's designed for you making up your own mind after everybody says everything they have to say. And you take things out of the book and use them the way that you see fit to use.
or you might not find anything in the book anywhere that you think you can use. Like one person told me, said, Fuller, I can't use nothing in that book that you got out here. I don't see nothing in there I can use at all. I said, that's exactly the way the book is supposed to work. You take out what you can use, and if you can't use it, the book is of no value to you. Every book is supposed to have value. And I wrote my book that's supposed to be something on every page that'll help everybody who is non-white, I hope, and nothing in excess. Some people say, oh, I repeated myself too much. Well, I did that deliberately because repetition is how you learn a lot of things. But get it by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And that's what I recommend.
That's right.
A textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of white supremacy. Now that's very explicit. Textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action, taken action, and this is for the victim of white supremacy, thinking, speaking, and acting to replace white supremacy with justice. I didn't spell it all out there, but that's what it's basically for. And eventually having what? Universal man with universal woman at their best.
At your best.
That's what every book should be about.
Okay.
Go
there
to
you
producejustice.com.
Producejustice.com. Okay, we have about 2 minutes in this first segment. So, Mr. Fuller, I'm going to give you the last 2 minutes of this segment before we close out the first hour. So go ahead, please, sir.
I'm just going to go back with what I started with for this first hour, and that is, if this book is not about you identifying yourself as a victim of white supremacy, the book is not for you.
Yes, sir.
Because it's for people who perceive themselves as being victims of white supremacy, and they want to replace the government, the world government, which is the system of white supremacy, with a government of justice. Replace white supremacy with justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
Yes, sir.
And the white supremacy system does not do that. It guarantees that people will be mistreated in all areas of activity who are people having color in their skin. That's what the system of white supremacy is guaranteed to do. Mistreat people for their own comfort and glory and fun. That's what the white supremacists get out of it. Fun, glory, and material comfort.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Constructive Action Items. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Well, we've come to the end of the first hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Fuller, so we do thank you for listening. On the second half, we got a new caller alert coming in. We got Raymond in there, and don't forget, those who are calling in, don't forget to give the call screener your name. Thank you for listening to the first hour. So if you have to go, hopefully you will tune in next week. But for those who will be here for the second hour, as I used to say in terrestrial radio, stick and stay. Don't go away, because we have another hour coming up on the Counter-Racist Code Show in 7 seconds. Alrighty, welcome back to the second hour of the Counter Racist Code Show. Yes, you heard correctly. To the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Now, to get in contact with today's show, just dial this number, 516-453-9921. Please be sure, ma'am, please be sure, sir, to give a call screener your name so that I can properly give you an introduction without butchering your name, which I work hard at trying not to do, but sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not. Still learning. Okay. Make sure you press the number 1 button. There you go. And then, make your statement or your comment so that Mr. Fuller can answer your question. You can also email me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. More than likely, it will not be read today, but on some other show or other time slot, we'll pick it up and it will be read, and I will notify you of that. Also, this right here. Make sure that you want to get in the chat room, you want to do this. Go to blogtalkradio.com. And then when you do that, you want to click on where it says Programs. Okay, once you do that, then a menu of different shows will pop up, and you want to go where it says the Produce Justice Show. Click on that, and the chat room becomes available. To you, and you can join the chatters, and you'll be glad that you did. Okay. Those are the ways that you can get in contact with the show. Occasionally I will read a chat or two from there, something that is going on in there, and we'll let you know about that. All books and materials that is mentioned by Mr. Fuller can be obtained by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com, and I think later on in the program we'll have him speak about the book again, because, again, as I indicated, there are so many people that are listening and want to know where can we get this material and all that kind of stuff. And you can get it by going to producejustice.com. All right. Thank you, Wendell, in South Carolina, for doing that thing. But right now, we're going to go. New York is represented. And Damon, if you tell me you're around that Flatbush area or Crown Street, I know something. Let's go to Damon in Brooklyn. New caller. Damon, you are on with Mr. Fuller. If I can get you, there you go. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Mr. Fuller, I've heard you say the phrase, stand by your work. Now, I'm trying to do an experiment based on some of the things I've heard you say on this program. Now, some of the things I've heard you say was, if your thought, speech, and actions are aligned in a constructive manner, then that should produce a constructive result, correct?
Yes, everything that a person thinks, speaks, and does, according to compensatory code, is to produce a constructive result. Everything.
Okay.
I mean, why would a person do anything that's not going to produce a constructive result? That would be the question.
My question is, I just wanted clarification on that part. My actual question is it okay for me to use your name while I'm conducting this experiment, because I have to conduct it with other people, and I want to make sure that they know where I get this concept from to conduct this experiment, so that I'm giving you credit, so I'm not standing by your work. I'm letting people know that I'm getting this concept from you.
Okay, ask that question again. Is it correct for a person?
I'm asking, is it okay, while I conduct this experiment, is it okay for me to use your name to give credit for your work, so that I'm not standing by your work while I'm doing this experiment?
Oh, well, yeah, anything. It's just like, a car or a word is no different. Anything that you get from somebody, a recipe for how to make some soup, you just say, well, this is Neely Fuller's idea of how to make soup, bouillon soup, or bean soup. This is his recipe. This is Neely Fuller's recipe. Now, I have taken his recipe and I have made my own recipe. All right, if you made some additions to it or something like that. Say, but the basis for it, I got the idea from Neely Fuller's book, his work, all right, or whatever recipe he has in his cookbook. And this book is based on what I got from this book. And I have my own ideas. And so I'm going to distinguish Neely Fuller's ideas from mine. And that's all you got to do. That's standing by your work and recognizing that what Neely Fuller's work is. See, in other words, so that people don't get them confused. Because it's an excellent question that you're presenting, because I've been trying to answer that question for a whole lot of people, because a lot of people have been using what I have written, and they intermingle it with things that they are saying, and using all kinds of profanity and all like that. And so that, when people say, well, Neely Fuller said this, he said, he used the term MF. I mean, explicitly. And he that's a part of his program, and it's not. And so if a person does that, say, no, you using that kind of language, this didn't come from Neely Fuller. Don't mix it up with what Neely Fuller said, because I didn't say anything like that,
Correct.
And the person who is what you call saying what they're saying, and this is their work, they're mixing it up with what I said. But make a distinction, a clear distinction. This is what Neely Fuller said. Now, even if you disagree, particularly if you disagree, say, this is what Neely Fuller said, I disagree. He had 50 things here. I disagree with 30 of them. I agree with 20. And I'm going to write something about that, if you just want to do that. Or if you write something on your own and you just want to make reference, like people do it all the time when they write books. They put in the back of the book that a lot of the references that I made to this, that, and the other came from Neely Fuller on page 32. That came directly from Neely Fuller. And then you can say, I agree, or I disagree, or I'm just using it as a reference, because it made me think about something else. So my something else is in this book, but I had the basis for it for Neely Fuller. Now, you might ask, okay, Neely Fuller doesn't even have no references in his book, so where did he get his stuff from? My stuff just came from the conglomeration of everything I've ever read or heard, and things I don't even remember. That's where I give my references. But I think that I don't think I've stolen anything from anybody. That's called plagiarism.
Right.
And so that's all. I mean, you can just give reference. If you got something out of the Bible, just say, this comes from the Bible. I quote Mark Twain all the time right here on the air, but I'm quoting Mark Twain. I say, no, I didn't say this. This came from Mark Twain. This came from Aristotle. This came from a movie that Spike Lee made. I say that right here on air all the time. And I got a list of movies. I didn't make any of them. That's on my website that I recommend, that you can learn a lot about different things, including a movie made by Spike Lee, Mr. Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing, which is pretty explicit. I thought it was an excellent title for a movie, because that's the title of the movie, and that's the essence of the movie. Do the right thing. That's what the code is about. Just pick out the correct thing to do in every circumstance and do it. Duh. And they made another movie that's on the list called Malcolm X. I recommend people see that. And I say, look for the lessons in each scene. It's movies with lessons. I didn't make any of these movies. I had nothing to do with it. Wasn't on an advisory panel or nothing. But, these are lesson movies. I got a long list of them.
Okay. All right, Damon. Thank you very much, Damon from Brooklyn. Don't be a stranger, Damon, please. Thank you for your call. Okay, Mr. Fuller, you've made this statement several times, but I'm going to have you repeat that again. People want to know where you're from, and you make a statement that's similar to this, that you are from everywhere, and basically you're from everywhere and nowhere at the same time, or something like that. For clarification purposes, can you repeat that statement?
When people ask me where I'm from, I basically tell them what they expect about a geographical location. But I say the codified response to that is I'm from everywhere I have ever been. And I'm from everywhere I've never been. And then people ask, of course, that's my explanation. Of course, that's the truth. I'm from my mother's womb, if people want illustrations. Why? I've been in my mother's womb. And I'm also from Mars. Why? I've never been to Mars. I'm from everywhere I've ever been, and I'm from everywhere that I've never been. I'm from infinity. Infinity? Yeah. Before I got in my mother's womb. Where was I? Well, in your daddy's sperm. I mean, that's how, a person might come to that conclusion. That's true. I've been there too. But I'm from everywhere I have ever been, and I'm also from everywhere I have never been, and that's the truth.
Okay. All right.
And if anybody wants a further explanation, I'll just try to the best of my ability, explain it further.
Yes.
I've never been to the moon. I just gave an illustration. But I'm from the moon. Why? Because I've never been to the moon. I'm from there. I'm from every place I've never been. I'm from Cincinnati. I've been there. But what is Cincinnati? Have I been from every street in Cincinnati because I was on the street there? Well, I was in Cincinnati, so you can say that theoretically I was on every street in Cincinnati. But when I was in Cincinnati, I don't remember walking up and down every street. But I was in Cincinnati. And every street in Cincinnati is in Cincinnati, whatever Cincinnati means. Maybe I never was from or been in Cincinnati. But if I was testifying in court and I was asked, have you ever been in Cincinnati, Ohio? I would say yes. Have you been in every place in Cincinnati, Ohio? No. Everybody's room, every bus station, every airport. I don't know how many they got. But I was from all of them when I left. I was from every room that's in Cincinnati. Every room in every house. I was from there. Why? Because I was in Cincinnati. Whatever that means. So I'm from every place I've ever been. And I'm also from every place I've never been. And that's the truth.
And that's the truth. Okay. We're going to go back to the phone lines. And let's go to Raymond in Georgia. Raymond, see if I get it on the, see right there. Okay, Raymond, you are on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, morning, Mr. Bobby. Morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, sir. Raymond, you're breaking up badly, Raymond.
Yeah, you hear me now?
No, you're breaking up real badly. Wait a minute. Try it again.
Yeah, you hear me now?
Not too well. Can you hear me, Mr. Fuller?
I can't hear anything but static.
Yeah, that's all we hear, Raymond, is static. I tell you what, Raymond, get you another device, call back in, tell the call screener you were on, and then we'll expedite you right to the top because we're both having problems in hearing you. I am so sorry, okay? Do that, and we'll get you back on. In the meantime, and in between time, let's go to Blacktop in the NYC. Blacktop, get ready. Let's see here. Okay. There we go. Blacktop, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
This question is from Mr. Fuller. So
yes, sir.
You have untold millions of people who have never heard of your book or your concepts, and you also have many who are not willing, even if they heard of you, to follow your book or your concepts. And the problem we're dealing with is major, that problem being racism, white supremacy, and it's fast. Could this be that this is just a problem that only God can solve? Is that something we need to consider? And could that actually be the truth?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
I here again, as always, almost on every question, I didn't understand the question.
Okay, let me see
and
if I can.
my hearing's not all that good, too. I found that out. You know.
Okay. Blacktop, hello, Blacktop?
I'm here.
Okay, yeah. Could you repeat your question again? We have problems here.
Okay.
And take it slowly so that because I can piece the question together. I have to do it that way.
Okay.
Whatever the first part of it is, just say that. So what's the first part of your question?
Among people who are considered non-white.
Among people who are considered non-white.
Yes, there are millions who have never heard your ideas.
Wait a minute. Segmented it. Among people who are non-white, who have what?
There are millions, if not billions, who have never heard your ideas.
Who have never heard anything about the code book. Okay, I got that.
Exactly. And there are also some who have heard it, but they're not
interested
at all.
And who are also what?
There are some who have heard your ideas, but not interested in implementing. Who have heard your ideas, but they have no interest in implementing their ideas in anything they do.
And who have implemented my ideas in everything that they do?
No, let me go back. They have heard some of your ideas or even similar ideas, but particularly they have heard your ideas and they're not interested.
And they're what?
And I'm talking about not interested in implementing these ideas.
They have heard the ideas, but they are not interested.
Yes, and I'm talking about the people who are non-white on this planet.
Yes.
Okay, so you have two groups there, those who have never heard and those who have heard but not interested. My question to you is this. Could it be that, because we're dealing with this issue of white supremacy, it's a very it's a big problem here, daunting task to deal with this day in and day out. Could this be that this is something that only God can the problem only God can solve?
Could it be that the problem is what?
Could it be that the problem of racism, white supremacy, is only one that the Creator can
is
solve?
Only what?
A problem that the Creator can solve.
Oh, could it be? Okay, your question is the problem of racism only the Creator can resolve. That's your question.
Is that possible?
Yes. In other words, that is the question that I'm being asked. Can the problem of racism be solved only by the Creator of the universe?
Yes.
If I understand what your question is that
is
the
it.
question?
Correct.
No. We can solve the problem according to the code. When I think about your question and what the code says, otherwise, I wouldn't have no business even touching it at all if it could only be solved by the Creator. So I don't believe that. So I put in the book that we are put here to solve problems. And the theory is any problem that people make, people can correct. Because the Creator of people will allow that. That's the theory. That's the theory, the codified theory. The Creator gives their creation so much power, limited power, because the people do not create anything. The Creator creates. People only use what the Creator provides. So any problem that people make with the things that they are given, they can take those same things and solve the problem. That's the theory, according to the code. So the race problem can be solved by people because people make the race problem.
Now, I've heard you say, and I do agree with you, you said that the white supremacists are the strongest, most powerful people who've ever existed. Am I correct about that?
Well, some people say yes, some people say no, but I'm saying the white supremacists are the smartest people on the planet because everybody wants to know which way did the white folks go. People lining up for borders. They're not asking for Neely to solve their problem. They take one look at me and say, you can't solve no problem. I run away from you looking for somebody that can solve a problem. And that's other people that look like me. I can't stand being around you, fool. You can't solve nothing. I tell you what my problems are. You directing me all over there. You don't know nothing. If you knew anything, you wouldn't be in the shape that you're in, because you're saying you're in the same shape that I'm in, and that's true.
Now,
so what they do is line up at borders and all like that. I'm going and look for somebody that got some sense, that know how to get something done, and that's always somebody white. All right, always. At the end of the line, that's who it's going to be. That's what white supremacy means. You either like the truth or you don't.
The white supremacists are unwilling to change their ways. We don't have the power to make them change. So going back to my original question, don't you think that this is a problem that a higher power needs to address?
Yes, I think the higher power addressed it by allowing this situation to exist. That's why the code says, what are we put here for? We're put here to solve problems. So what's the problems of black people? And when I went through all the lists, I said, it looks like our problem, because we always complaining that we got problems.
Who's the cause of our problem? Well, we are slaves. Slaves to what? The system of white supremacy. Is that a problem? Yes. So you're put here to solve the problem of white supremacy. So that's the problem that you got. You can't solve no problem without dealing with it. That's been my experience. That's why I wrote the book. I'm not dealing with any other problem. That's the problem. White people who decided that I was eligible for mistreatment. That's why I was born. I got color in my skin. That makes me eligible for mistreatment. And all kinds of mistreatment. That I'm supposed to be, by birth, a target for abuse. Hello, am I still on the line?
Yeah, you're still on.
Okay. And so I tried to run away from that. Like most people don't like what you call an ugly truth, but there's no such thing as an ugly truth. It's the truth. So I say, okay, Fuller, roll up your sleeves and solve the problem as best you can with what you have. And that's what I've been doing. I was late in doing it. That's why I'm way up in age right now. And I should have been doing this and understood that that's what I've been doing. Somebody should have told me that's what I was supposed to be doing, because that's what I was born to do. But I was 30 years old before I got that all together. Nobody should have to be 30 years old before they realize what they're here for. Somebody should tell you that right out of the womb. And that's my view. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. But I'm too late. Really. Because I wasted all that time. Because nobody told me, Fuller, the world is full of problems. And you got problems. But what is your biggest problem? My biggest problem is racism. Well, why don't you act like it? And somebody should have told me that, but nobody did.
Okay.
I had to figure it out.
Alrighty. Blacktop, thank you so much for your call, and you don't be a stranger either. Mr. Fuller, before we go to break, man, correct me, please, if I am incorrect on this statement I'm going to make. Was there a white supremacist white supremacist march in Washington, D.C. this past weekend that you were aware of?
No, I'm not aware of it under that banner. But if you ask me from the codified view, see, the white supremacists are marching every time they take a step. That's what marching is, taking steps. So the white supremacists are white supremacists everywhere they go. They don't become white supremacists by going to a certain place. A white supremacist is a walking country, you might say, or a planet, on their own, everywhere they go. The white supremacist attitude is, I'm where I'm supposed to be. Even in your living room, even in some black person's bed with a black person. I'm where I'm supposed to be, because I'm supposed to be everywhere if I want to be there. Why? Because I'm white, that's why. That's what white supremacy means.
All right. Perhaps I said it wrong, but I was watching MSNBC News this past weekend, and they showed pictures of a march of people who claimed that they were white supremacists with American flags around their mouth, marching down. It looked like it was the streets of Washington, D.C. That's why I was asking, but you said you have basically no knowledge of that or whatever. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Because and there's a reason why. There are marches of some type in Washington, D.C. going on all day, every day, somewhere of some kind, it seems like to me. I just, after a while, you kind of get weary of it.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Or you just don't pay any attention of it, one way or another.
Okay.
I try to get around the city down through the years because I'm here.
Yes.
In Washington, D.C. And I'm getting held up in traffic all over the city on many occasions. And I got to the place where I don't pay much attention to what the sign's all about or anything. It's just sort of like a weariness of when you see something over and over again, And there are some movies that I look at over and over again, and there's some that I don't. And there are some movies I never want to see again.
All righty, let's break it off. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. here on the 16th of May, 2023. We thank you for listening. Now, we got about a half hour left in today's programming, and if you would like to join us or have a question or even a comment, you can do so by calling 516-453-9921. Make sure that you press the number 1 button so that you can get in line and give the call screener your name, and then we can move on from there. If you are a first-time caller, as we've had today, a couple of them, as a matter of fact, be sure to give your name to the call screener, and the call screener will let me know that you are on and you will be heard. So you don't have to worry about that. You can also do it this way. If you'd like to Gmail me, you can. My Gmail address is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. Now, your question probably will not be read today, but I will give you a symbol to indicate that I did receive your Gmail, and at some point in time, it will be read. And lastly, if you'd like, you can join the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on where it says programs, and once you do that, then a list of shows will come up, and you want to get the Produce Justice show. You can do that bad boy, and then the chat room is available, and you can get into the chat room and ask your questions or join the chats. And occasionally I will select something that's being said, a topic, and read it over the air. So those are the ways that you can do that. All righty, 516-453-9921. Okay, let's go to George. Man, NYC is representing. Oh, okay, and then we're going to go back down to Raymond. Okay, George, you're going to represent New York. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Bobby. Hi, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
There was a show long ago where you had clips talking about being too nice in the system of white supremacy, and the specific way that you're too nice that you were addressing was in relationships, and the girl ended up breaking up with her boyfriend in school because he was quote unquote too nice. What do you think, Mr. Fuller, about being too nice in relationships in the system of white supremacy, and what is the constructive way of preventing yourself from being taken advantage of for being quote unquote too nice?
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Asking a question. Whenever there's a dilemma, whatever you mean by the word dilemma, I mean you have questions about it. That's what dilemma kind of implies. You just ask those questions. And the logical question in somebody being too nice, first thing you want to know is, what's nice? And then what's too nice? That's two questions right there. Just start with the words that you are given. That's how you ask or answer questions. Work with the words that you are given. So the word is nice. That's the base word of those two words. Too nice. So the first thing you want to know is, what do you mean by nice? And you might spend 4 days trying to figure out what nice is. What's nice and what's not nice. Because if you got too nice, what do you mean by too nice? You got nice and then you got too nice. So you're dealing with, since the person mentioned it, the two words together, what's too nice? Starting with what's nice. It's something that you do. It's something that you say, or a combination of both. It's something that you think. Thought, speech, action. What's nice when it comes to thinking, speaking, or acting? You start with those questions. What do you mean by nice speech? Or nice thought? Or nice action? And what do you mean by thought, speech, and action that is too nice? And is too nice constructive? Because this is where you always should head. Is it constructive? Is being too nice constructive? Or is it non-constructive? It's going to be one or the other. Once you decide what nice is. So what's nice to one person may not be nice to another. And sometimes people say that. That's not nice. It was nice to me. Yeah, but it's not nice to me. And if you do anything like that around me, I don't consider it as being nice. Mm-hmm. Now we're getting somewhere. It all boils down to questions and answers. Like, what does the code say that I want everybody to remember? All problems, if it is a problem, all problems, 24/7, everywhere in the universe, are solved through the process of questions and answers. The answers won't take everybody where they want to go, but they will always take everybody where they should be. Questions and answers. It'll do it every time. That's the law of the universe. It's not Fuller's law. That applies to everybody, everywhere, all the time.
Yes, sir.
Questions and answers. It'll take everybody right where they should be. Every time. Enough questions and enough answers. If you don't believe it, try it.
Try it. Okay. All right. Thank you, George from New York. Thank you very much. Let's piggyback and let's get Raymond back. Hopefully he's got a better device. Okay, Raymond, let me see if I can get you in here. Okay, let's see, Raymond in Georgia. Okay, Raymond, let's see if we're better.
Yeah, how is it?
Hey, Raymond, it's
it's
still broken. Can you hear
I hear
Mr. Fuller?
static. Pure static. That's all I hear. Static. That's all I hear is static. Just like on the radio when you hear static, that's all that I hear. Static.
Raymond.
Bobby.
Oh, wait a minute. Go ahead. Wait a minute. Are you there now?
Yeah.
You're still breaking up, man. Yeah,
it's
you're still breaking
static.
up.
I'm hearing all static.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, let's go to New York and Tess. Tess, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What's your question?
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. This is just a follow-up question. Mr. Fuller, what is your definition of common sense?
Common sense. Sense that most people, when you do it or say it, would agree that whatever's being done or said is the thing to do or not do. In other words, I have the same definition for common sense as you'll find in most dictionaries. It just means common. They agree that, well, people might agree that the sky is the sky. Sometimes in order to explain, give an answer to a question, I give illustrations. That's my illustration. It's right off the top of my head, you might say, to use a cliche. Someone says, do you know what the sky is? That's a question. So common sense kind of says that, well, the sky is the sky. And then they give an illustration by pointing to the sky. See, now that over there is a car. It's under the sky. And then a person might say, under the sky? That car is under the sky? Well, now, when the world turns, is the car under the sky, or is the sky, or vice versa, or what? What do you mean by under? See, so it comes down to, in answer to the question, common sense. It's just whatever people agree on. Now, this is not in the word guide, common sense. But I'm just feeling my way as I talk right now by using what? Common sense or codified logic to find out what common sense is. But it's just what people agree on, and what they agree on they have in common. And that's how their senses lead them to believe whatever they believe, that they agree on, is common sense. Why is it common sense? Because most people agree on it. But it may not be common sense at all. If most people will agree that it ain't common sense, which then would be the common sense that they didn't agree on, that's not common sense. This depends on how you want to think about it, I guess. But basically, I didn't coin that term. That's why it's not in the word guide. If I put it in the word guide, I would add a definition for it. But
yes,
it's millions of words. People have asked me about the word guide. They say, Fuller, you don't have this word and you don't have that word. When you start talking about words in a dictionary in the English language, you better get you a wheelbarrow. And if you got them in a book, that book is going to be a load that you're going to have to put in something with wheels on it to carry it around, because you're not going to be able to carry it.
Yes, sir.
There are so many words in the English language that are not in no one book of any kind. I
see. Okay. All right. Thank you, Tess. Let's see here. Schwa, I believe it is. Schwa, did we get you in here? Nope. Okay. Sit in the 213. Okay. See, this is a new caller. GOO go in Toronto.
Yes, Vu. The name is Vu.
Oh,
V-U.
Goo. Okay, Goo. Okay, I'm sorry.
Vu. V-U. V-U. Vu.
Oh,
as in
Vu.
deja
Okay,
vu.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. You're on with Mr. Fuller.
Okay, so just a little preface to my question. Thank you, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. Good morning. I just turned 30 a few days ago, and it seems to me, it looks like there's been a lot of coincidences leading up to this 30th birthday. Within the last year, I discovered your work as well, and I've watched a lot of your videos. I got the book and stuff I've been reading. So I got a question about relations, I guess, between black women, black men, because not just romantically, but also like parental. I have had a terrible relationship with my parents, and when I look at it, when I actually look into it, I can see that they are also suffering from, they've got demons that they didn't start. They're fighting their own demons, and I can see how they also link to the system of white supremacy. We have been displaced as families, and everybody is just messed up, just as I am, and I'm also seeing that as well. And I have so much anger towards my parents. But I also know that this anger won't lead anywhere, It's not like as if they're going to wake up tomorrow and they're going to be like, well, we'll forgive you, my son. I can see how they're also just struggling with their own issues. And so my question is, how do you proceed knowing that some of your own family members who are messed up, particularly your parents, they're also just victims? But also,
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We don't move to the second question without getting the first question. What's the first question?
How do you form functional relationships with your parents if your parents themselves are victims and they can't see that?
Wait a minute. Slow down. If what?
If they also can't see how white supremacy affects our relationship.
Wait a minute. If your parents, your parents what?
They cannot see that we don't have functional relationships because of the system of white supremacy.
If your parents don't see that you have what kind of relationship?
Dysfunctional.
Functional?
Dysfunctional.
I'm not getting that word.
He said dysfunctional. Relationship.
You're dysfunctional. What? With what?
Relationships with my parents. I have dysfunctional relationships with them.
You have this. Wait a minute. Are you asking a question?
Yes, sir. I'm asking a question.
Yes, and the question is, if you have dysfunction. Hello?
Yes, sir.
See, in codification, we have to be real slow, and we have to, because it requires thinking, thought, speech, action. So I have to understand your question now. I do have a hearing problem, and you're speaking kind of fast. So I can pick up on what you're saying. That's my fault. It's not yours. It's just a failure to communicate, all right, to use a cliche. Failure to communicate.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just trying to get the gist of your question because codification is about precision. So my answer has to be precise. Otherwise, it ain't code. It's got to be something you can absolutely rely on. Any answer that I give. Okay, so if your parent, apparently you have a question where there's a problem with your parents, people that you call your parents.
Yes, sir.
So that problem is what?
A dysfunctional relationship, an abusive relationship.
A dysfunctional relationship, meaning what? See, I have to understand the question.
It was abusive. They abused me physically.
Okay,
but
your
also,
parents abused you, and the question is.
And the question is, how do I move on from that, knowing that this is normal in a system of white supremacy?
Oh.
This is how things are supposed to be.
Oh, the compensatory code. That's what we could have gotten on right quick to it. Your parents abuse you. What does the code say about what to do? That's it. It's just that simple. That's the question. See, I have to get the question correct in order to give an answer that's correct and precise. You have people that you call your parents that abuse you, and what do you do about it in the system of white supremacy?
Yes,
you
sir.
go to the code, or you make up a code Everybody's supposed to be in the process of making up a code. And the code is based on what? What is the code itself? It's something that will work, that will address the situation as best you can, considering what you have. So it's just with any kind of abuse. What does the compensatory code or the compensatory logic, I can use that term, logic, because everything in the code is supposed to be logical, everything. When you are being abused by anybody, in any circumstance, under the system of white supremacy or anything else, abuse is abuse. So what do you do when someone is abusive? You study the abuse and say, now, is this something that is constructive or not? That's your first question, according to the code. And the answer most likely will be no. Then you say, what is causing the abuse? Say, my parents. Well, what are they doing that causes the abuse? And then you, like, what does the code say? Questions and answers, questions and answers, questions and answers. You ask the abusers questions and wait for their answers. Why are you doing what you're doing? You go to page 171, 172. What do you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it? How do you plan for me to do it? And what do you expect the constructive result to be? Those are the 4 questions that you ask your parents or anybody else who you're receiving, quote, unquote, abuse from. Worldwide, 24 hours a day. Those 4 questions will take everybody right where they need to be. The answers will take everybody right where they need to be. It won't take everybody where they should be in answer to your questions, sir, according to the code. I had to run that little experiment and feel my way through it myself, according to the code. What do you do, Fuller, in response to that type of question? Well, you just simply say, page 171, 172 of the 2016 book. At first, 171, those questions you ask yourself. Then you ask the other people that you're interacting with.
Yes, sir.
What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? How do you plan to do it? You should have a plan. It's something you want to do.
Yeah.
Even if it's just walking across the street. I plan to walk across the street by walking across the street. That's my plan. I'm going to walk. I'm not going to take my scooter. I'm going to walk. That's my plan. And what do you expect the constructive result to be? I'll be on the other side, out of the rain, because I want to get out of the rain. That's why I wanted to go in the first place. I'm standing in the rain, getting wet. Common sense, logic, according to the code. It's the same procedure with your parents as it would be with a total stranger. Same questions and answers. Apply anywhere. Page 171, 172. Apply those 4 questions anywhere in any situation, and it's impossible to get lost.
Yes, sir. All righty. Thank you, Boo, from Toronto. Don't be a stranger. See if I can get this last call in. Don't have your name, but see if we can get you in here. See. Okay, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I'm Mr. Bobby. This is Victor calling from Toronto, Canada.
Okay, Victor.
Mr. Fuller, I tried to ask you a question about why are non-white people setting for survival instead of pursuing justice?
Because they're desperate. People who are desperate, and you gave me the answer right there. What are they doing? Why are they doing what they're doing? They're struggling for survival. When you are drowning and somebody's giving you a sermon on white supremacy, you're drowning. Now let's go to that term common sense that somebody used earlier. Hey, first thing you do is priorities according to common sense. You help the person to keep them from drowning so they can listen to you. The person is drowning, and Neely Fuller is leaning over the edge of the boat and saying, now let me tell you about white supremacy. And the person is struggling not to drown. Help, help. You know, get me out of the water. I can't swim. Well, let me tell you about racism. That's what I'm yelling back. Fuller, throw me a rope. The person says, help. I'm drowning. I can't swim. I'm standing there with a rope in my hand, and I'm going to give a sermon about white supremacy. That doesn't mesh. That's not compensatory logic. Throw him the rope, or get somebody, that knows how to swim who also knows how to rescue him. Because Fuller, you can't swim either. All right? But the immediate thing is to try to help the person immediately. Get the person. So now, after the person gets settled in and all like that, and 6 months later, you're sitting around eating a healthy meal, which should be common sense, but it ain't. Getting a healthy meal, then you can talk about racism or any other subject.
Yeah. Okay, well,
it's called priorities.
Priorities. We're going to have to leave it there. That's the priority. So producejustice.com is where you get the books and all the materials there. Thank you for listening to the program. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers. Mr. Fuller, since we're at producejustice.com for all the books and materials, we have a minute and 30 seconds to go, and I'm going to give that to you because people would love to hear from you for the last minute and 30 seconds. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Well, I'm going to end up like I started out, talking about whether we should identify ourselves as victims of white supremacy or shouldn't. And over years and years, decades, the long as I've been on the planet Earth and became aware of it, I say that if you're non-white on the planet in the year 2023, according to logic, you are a victim of white supremacy. Now, if you don't want to call yourself that, according to the code, call yourself by whatever title you want.
Okay.
Because the code says that too.
Yes, sir.
This says that you are not a victim, and you might say you're not a victim of anything and act accordingly, as if you're not a victim. If somebody wrecks your car while you're in it, you're a victim of a car wreck, somebody else says, you'll say, no, I'm not. Just start doing that if you just want to deal with the word victim. When you're in court, say, no, I'm not the victim here. The person that ran into me is. I was part.
Okay.
That person is a victim. Maybe.
Okay. Well, we got to leave it right there. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers. We'll try to do better next week. Everybody have a good week. Have a good week, Mr. Fuller, and thank you. Everybody, thank you.